make you lose control. Music make you lose control.
To say that anticipation for this game was high is an understatement. People have been waiting for a very long time for Remedy to be able to actually stretch their legs free from Microsoft and whatever happened with Quantum Break. Though it was a fantastic game, it can say that it wasn't Remedy's best, and it almost felt like they was under some sort of contract where they wasn't able to express themselves in a way that they really are used to, especially as Microsoft wanted to focus more on the TV era, hence why they had that weird live action stuff in that game. Though it makes sense for Remedy to do something like that because it is their signature to use live action actors, it just felt a little bit off, and there was definitely something strange about Quantum Break, but I couldn't really put my finger on it. But if you want to see a great video on Quantum Break, go check out Mayor Hairbear's video on Quantum Break. He's a fantastic dude. He's done all the Alan Wake games, and he also did Quantum Break, and I imagine he'd be doing a Control video just like me very shortly, so go check that out. Anyway, on with the review. Do you remember playing Halo Reach and thinking that that was Bungie's swan song? And almost everything that they learned over the years of making all the Halo games and all the mechanics and all the engine development that they really put their time into, it all came together to make a near masterpiece of a game, which was Halo Reach, and which some even say was probably the best in the series mechanically and probably story wise. Or do you even remember playing Red Dead Redemption 2? And it really made sense when you played Red Dead Redemption 2 because it felt like everything that Rockstar worked on over the previous generation, from GTA 4 to Max Payne 3, LA Noire, even Red Dead Redemption 1, it just sort of all came together to make this beautiful masterpiece of a game that they can really put a stamp on and say that it is theirs, and it actually all makes sense for it to all come together from everything they've learned over the years. It's almost exactly the same thing here with Remedy and Control. Control really feels like a formula that Remedy has just mastered over the years. From its storytelling to its solid gameplay, you can tell it has all their signature mechanics into this game. They've really put their heart and soul here, and Sam Lake himself should be up there with Miyamoto, with Hideo Kojima. He should honestly be up there, and Remedy should be up there as one of the best game companies around, up there with Naughty Dog and Rockstar. Though some people do make questionable decisions, I believe that they definitely set a high standard for all their games, and every single game itself is like a bigger major event, and it does feel like it's super memorable. Control takes a lot from previous Remedy games. As I said, the storytelling is very similar to the likes of Alan Wake, using live action actors to tell its story, which, like I said earlier in the video, is definitely a signature in their style, and they blend it so well here without it getting in the way of the gameplay and almost feeling like a separate dimension, or feeling like something that just completely makes sense for it to be in this game's weird and wild world. And the gameplay here, it feels like an evolution from Max Payne 1. Remedy have known for making the masterful Max Payne, which actually introduced the world to slow-mo bullet time, and then from there it became a signature in a lot of third-person based games, and that's all thanks to Remedy and how they understand how well and how important gameplay and gunplay is in these sort of games. And even Quantum Break has a spin on the time mechanics that Max Payne introduced, obviously adding a little bit more mutant-esque powers into it, which completely makes sense for this game's step in the direction where the combat and the powers flow a little bit more perfectly and smoother than they did in Quantum Break. Though Quantum Break had a mean powerful punch behind it, I felt like it was a little bit slow and it felt a bit heavy, and that kind of makes sense to the character because he's untrained and isn't prepared for this situation, where the character Jess in Control feels like an over-the-top badass, and she's a great character, she has a great sense of humour, and you feel like the X-Men, and this feels like the X-Men game that we've always wanted but never got. Something I was looking forward to the most with Control is just unravelling the world and unravelling the mystery, because when you saw the trailers for this game, it really gave you nothing at all. All you saw was floating people and a building which was very big, and every now and then you get gunfights and your character flying around and you're like, what is going on here? If this game had to take place in anyone's head, it feels like it takes place in Stanley Kubrick's head. There's something so interesting about this world's layout, the colours they use, the carpets themselves look like they're straight from The Shining. It's strange, but at the same time you can see its inspiration, and you can see why it goes for its Twilight Zone, Black Mirror-esque vibes, because it just doesn't want to tell you too much, and it makes you want to discover the world and read a lot up on the lore, and it actually makes you want to know a lot more than this game actually offers you. Something I do appreciate here is that you can collect documented files around the world which actually give you in-depth lore, along with audio tapes and along with watching projector videos, which actually have a really cool effect. I also appreciate that this game is very much like SCP if it was a AAA game. This game takes the idea of SCPs and giving you strange items and giving you a backstory to them and even giving them side effects, and actually spinning it on its head by making your character take and be able to control certain abilities from these altered items. And trust me, there's going to be a lot of moments when you're playing this game and you're going to say, what the hell am I playing? But believe me when I tell you that it doesn't get weirder than the Threshold Kids. What the fuck is that?
I'll help you look, Topher. We'll find your mama together.
scared. Send help. Please. For me, when I was first going into this game, I was really expecting the story to be the thing that stands out the most, for it to grab my interest and for it to be just so exciting and so interesting to go through. But in the end of it, I found out that I think the gameplay is by far the strongest part of this whole game. And honestly, I think it is easily maybe top 3 games this year. Usually I'm not a fan of guns which are all mythical and magical and or whatever this gun is, but this game does so well to make you feel like this gun is more than just one singular gun, because it's able to turn into several different guns, being a machine gun to a shotgun to even just a standard magnum and or maybe long shot pistol type gun. And it's really powerful and it's really fast to switch up between these, and it really lets you personalize the way you're going to play and the guns that you prefer to use. But when you're in combat, the thing that shines the most is your telekinetic powers, the ability to be able to fly and be able to pull rocks from the walls. There's nothing more satisfying than grabbing items behind enemies and just pulling it towards you, watching them front flip forward and then smacking them in the front, watching them go flying backwards, or even being able to grab enemies and constantly yo-yo them back to forth while throwing them at their own teammates. It's so rewarding and it feels super powerful. And something here that is most impressive is that it feels like you're in the Matrix. Do you remember the scene in the Matrix of the pillars when they're shooting and all going upside down in the first Matrix? It's a fantastic scene and it's super awesome to look at. This game feels like that. I love the destructibility in this game. It feels so real. The amount of physics that go on in this game is ridiculous, and I can understand why it would have serious frame rate problems on consoles. Luckily I was playing it on the Xbox One X, so I was totally fine, but I hear that the game does run like arse on any normal Xbox and or PlayStation 4, but PC, PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X users should be fine. But the physics here are beautiful. It comes all together, and a nice kitchen can be easily destroyed, and I love that they respawn and everything here can be picked up easily without you having to overthink it, because you're always within reach of something to be able to be pulled off. And if there's nothing around, like I said earlier, you're able to use enemies and you're able to actually pull rocks out of the walls, and it feels awesome. The idea you can just throw enemies in the air, and something that really gave it a real sense of weight is how the bodies hit the floor, like this for example. The graphics themselves are probably some of the best I've seen this generation. Like I said, there's obviously frame rate issues here and there, but the facial animations are just beautiful. There is no going in and out of cutscene graphics. It's all just so well put together. It looks fantastic. The lighting, though, here and there I think there is some strange rendering issues where the lighting goes a bit strange and it almost looks like the beta version of Dead Rising 1, if you know what I mean. I don't know, but I think that's just maybe the engine that Remedy used, but it's fantastic looking and it looks great. And the fact that they can actually have it running as smooth as this on any console with everything going on in this game really is a standout here, and it may be Remedy's best game so far. It depends on your style of Remedy, because they do everything different every single game. As I said earlier, most games feel like an event. Alan Wake was a horror game, Quantum Break was a sci-fi action game, and this game is like a what the fuck am I looking at? I do appreciate Jess as a character, and I'm glad that Remedy have finally had a main female lead as a character, because I feel like she really stands out, and I don't think Remedy has had a female lead possibly since Max Payne 2, and even then that's possibly pushing it. Jess here, she just feels alive. She seems like a real character. She questions things, which is odd. At the same time though, there are some moments where I feel like she probably should have questioned things a little bit more than she did, but I do like that she is just like, what the hell is that? And she's just sort of there in the moment. There's this thing called the Clog, and she talks to it like, hey Mr. Clog, how are you? Like, okay, are you okay, Jess? Like, are you used to seeing this? Though it makes sense for her how in her first reaction to it, she's like, ew, gross, and then she eventually just starts calling it Mr. Clog and then sort of having fun with it. And I do appreciate it because it just sort of shows her development and how much she's just sort of enjoying this world, which is actually a key element to her character. I also like that she talks to this person in your head, which almost feels like you are being communicated with Jess, and it's almost like she's breaking the fourth wall, though it does give me Francis York Morgan vibes.
I've seen mentions of an Altered World event case dealing with Ordinary. You were at Ground Zero as a child? It was one of the big ones, and before my time.
Did you see that, Zack? Clear as a crisp spring morning. F.K. in the coffee.
Something I do really appreciate with this game as well is the enemy variety here. They have big dudes, small dudes, guys flying around with chairs and sacks on their heads, giant red glowy orb balls, these weird gross turret fungi looking things, and refrigerator. Yeah.
Oh, thank God. Look, someone has to watch this object at all times, or it deviates. My shifter blades have never showed up. Can you help me?
Damn.
And these different enemy types make the combat way more interesting. Some enemies can fly while other enemies will try flank you. Some enemies have the abilities to pick up gravel and throw things at you just like you do. And also, like I said, those glowy red orb things can give enemies extra health. So it makes sure you need to prioritize those, or the fight may take a little bit longer than you need to, because they can regenerate health super quickly. And this just keeps combat so interesting. It keeps you on your toes, and it can keep you dying over and over again, because this game doesn't have a difficulty setting. This game doesn't hold your hand. This game tells you need to learn your abilities, you need to master your surroundings, and you need to know exactly what you're going to do in the combat there in the moment, because this game can kill you. And it almost follows a Dark Souls formula, where you have to go capture a lantern point or claim a safe spot, and when every time you die you respawn away back there. Though there isn't anything at loss here, and it does feel a lot easier than your traditional Dark Souls style game. It almost feels like a mainstream adaptation of that, and it works really well here, and you have a ton of fun with it, and it doesn't feel too stressful, because even though you die and you maybe get sent back to the last place you actually had to respawn, it doesn't feel that bad, because the traveling is so quick and you can get around quite easily, almost like a Resident Evil game. Once you know the layout to this place like the back of your hand, you're going to find yourself backtracking left and right, and even unlocking shortcuts, which is really sweet and really rewarding. It has a great sense of progression, and it just feels great as a game overall. As I said earlier, this game may easily be in my top 3 games of this year. It's fucking phenomenal. I really had a ton of fun with this game. It's totally worth picking up and checking it out. Even if you're slightest bit curious, trust me, it's totally worth going into, and it's totally worth every single surprise this game throws at you. And there's moments where you're going to be questioning what the hell you're even playing or even looking at. But it's so fun to endure, and it's so fun just to go through and discover and just react to the world along with Jess. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this review. As I said, I didn't want to go too much into the story here, because there's a lot here which just hits you right in the back of the head with a great big old surprise. So I didn't want to say anything. Just play it, enjoy it, and I hope you really have a good time with this and enjoy it as much as I did. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Of course, I'll see you at the next checkpoint. Goodbye.